Now, in theory, you guys for your homework filled out your packet, researched your documents, looked into what the documents are talking about, and wrote down the associated terms.
Actually, yes, I did.
Now, this was a really crucial part for today. So if you did not do it, that's really unfortunate. Okay? Now, if you will flip to the third page at the very top, here's what you are going to do with it for the next couple of minutes. Okay? You are going to compare and contrast your T-chart, which is on the front page, to the third column on your second page that says associated terms. Basically, what you're attempting to do is, again, look at that second page in that third column, the one that says associated terms. Looking back and forth of those two charts, what I want you to do is in that top box on page 3, I want you to find any terms that were on your T-chart but were not mentioned in the documents. So any terms that are on your T-chart that are not mentioned in the documents, and write them in that top box on page 3. Go ahead and get started.
Japanese.
How about manifestation?
Okay. Any terms not mentioned, you should have at least 4 or 5. I think manifest destiny is definitely mentioned in those documents, or it could be used as historical context.
So we were saying it was mentioned in the chart.
Well, if you mention it in the chart and you didn't mention it in the documents, you can put it on there, but I will tell you that more than likely, you're going to say that several of the documents refer to manifest destiny.
Okay.
So what we're supposed to put in this box is things that are in the documents but not in the T-chart.
No. What's in the T-chart but not in the documents. So, for example,
Associated with the essay problem that aren't mentioned in the chart. So that means
the chart.
That's referring to that.
So, for example, Panama Canal.
I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Things
this
that are
one,
in the documents but not in the
this is
T-chart.
out of the time period.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you wouldn't put it in that because that's a
So then we
historical
could
context.
say, we could say,
Should have a minimum of 4. Minimum of 4. All right. Okay, coming back together. So, what are some examples of terms that were not specifically mentioned in your documents? Yeah. Okay, good. Anti-imperialist. And by the way, if you do not have these, I would definitely put them into your box. Anti-imperialist league. Okay. What else?
Opening of Japan.
Now, one thing about the opening of Japan, though, when did that happen?
Never mind. Yeah,
It's too early. Yeah. Okay. What else, Marie? Yeah, Panama Canal. Good. Okay. What else? I know groups had 4 or 5.
The Spanish-American.
Okay, Spanish-American War. You do have to be careful because some people would say that a lot of these have to do with the Spanish-American War. But if you didn't specifically mention it, that you could do Spanish-American War. But you just have to be careful because sometimes you'll say that, like, for example, document 5, the political cartoon has to do with it.
Okay.
But one thing that we could do with the Spanish-American War is, what is the name for the exaggerated journalism? Yellow journalism. So you could say, though, that you have yellow journalism, because that's definitely a term that's not there. There's one territory that we acquired or annexed that is not mentioned in the documents. What is that? Yeah. Hawaii. Puerto Rico is actually in one of the documents, I believe. Okay. So we have Hawaii down as well. Okay, what else? Okay, so we have Japanese exclusion, or in general, Asian exclusion. And then, what about Turner Thesis? Turner Thesis wasn't specifically mentioned. Okay. Marie?
Does it have to be specifically mentioned in the document to be associated terms?
Like what term?
Well, like, I thought the Turner Thesis was like an associated, not the Turner Thesis. I thought that the Anti-Imperialist League was an associated term for document 7.
We'll talk, well, I wouldn't say it for document 7, because document 7, I believe, is the Roosevelt corollary, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And that would support imperialism. Yeah. But referring to document 7 with Roosevelt corollary, Roosevelt believed that America was blank term and needed to help South American and Latin American countries and make sure that they're protected from Europe. What term is that called?
Policeman.
Yeah, the world's policeman. Okay? So you could add that one too. So all of these, and if you will put at the top of this box, all of these are what we call, and if you will put like a nice big star, outside evidence. So basically what you're seeing is this is going to be one part, it's part of the point that's on the DBQ that is not on an LEQ, is outside evidence. And we're going to come back to talking about how we're going to use these in a second. So if you didn't write it down because I'm about to erase all this. Okay, some of you are getting super distracted. And I highly encourage you to start paying attention. Okay. All right. Here is now the next step. Okay? So, your next step, you should see a chart on your paper. Okay? Now, basically what we're going to be doing is each of our documents, we're going to be kind of putting them into what we call categories or ideas. Basically what that means is we're going to group things together based on a term, an idea, a category, however your mind thinks of it best, that works with these documents. So, for example, I could say that one of my causes, and this is basically building your thesis, is social Darwinism. Okay? So in the left-hand side of my columns, I would write social Darwinism. Then I look at my documents and I say, which documents best go with social Darwinism? And for me, I'm going to say those are documents 2 and 5. And you might have different ones, which is totally okay. Then I might say another one. I might say another cause is the acquiring of territories. And I could say that has to do with Alaska, so that's number 1. Now, I could also make a category that is not on here that was part of my outside evidence. So maybe I want to really emphasize, because I know it well, the Turner Thesis. Then I don't have to put a document associated with it. Okay? Now, the nice thing about a DBQ is you can have unlimited amounts of categories or ideas, which means if you want 5 causes, then you can put 5 causes. If you want 7, you can put 7. You have to have at least a minimum of 3 categories, Now, some of these categories might have 2 documents, some might have 0. You need a minimum of 3. Now, this is a causation essay of causes and effects. What's our major argument? It's causes. So we want to have more categories in our causes side than our effects. So on your causes, you have to have a minimum of 3 categories, ideas, whatever. Remember, this is based on how we're going to do our thesis. So if you think about your thesis, how in a normal LEQ we have 3 on each side, that's basically what you're doing here. On the effects side, you only need to have 1 category. And additionally, you don't have to use a document if you don't want to. Okay? Now, one thing about the effects side, if you do 2 categories, that's fine too. But most of your documents should be over on the causes side. Somebody have a question? I saw somebody's hand was raised. Okay, so what I want you to do with your group is I want you to come up what categories your group feels most confident in. Now, these categories, by the way, because somebody asked last class, I don't get what you mean by categories. Those are like ideas. Those are pieces of evidence. So if I'm going to say one cause of America's expanding role in the world is social Darwinism, that's what I mean by categories. Okay, so it's just basically writing your thesis. All right? So work with your group, come up with your categories, make sure you put what documents are associated or not associated with it. Minimum of 3 causes, minimum 1 category on the effect. Make sure that the causes have more than effects. Ready, you go.
All right. You can relate more to it. Yeah. Because like
But you could if you wanted to. If you feel really confident that one of those pieces of outside information, like you know the Panama Canal, like you were there, then you can make that its own category. Yeah, you just put it in documents. Yes. Hey, by the way, I had somebody ask, can you use a document in multiple categories? The answer is yes. Just make sure all 7 documents are in at least 1 category.
Could we say that like a sense of nationalism?
Tuesday.
Tonight?
Next Tuesday.
That's great. Did you say that all 7 documents have to be associated with the category?
Yes. Because you have to mention all 7 in your essay at some point.
But you can mix and match.
Yeah, you can put them in multiple ones, but all 7 documents have to be mentioned at some point in your essay.
1.6. All right. Relating to that.
What?
I didn't write manifest like document number 4, but like looking at it now.
But you don't have. That doesn't matter. That was just brainstorming.
Okay, so can I?
You can still make your own categories manifest as me.
Okay, and then I can put it down.
Yeah. Okay. The other one was just pre-work and getting your brain going. Minimum of 3 cause categories.
I would say new markets, because then we can put in 5.
So basically 1 through 6 can work for 2.
Yeah, we can put 5 and 3. Because if we say that increased markets, you can relate 3.
I ran out of Band-Aids, but if you need to run down to the main office, you can.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, I used to have a ton of Band-Aids, and then now... I might have some in the emergency bucket. Okay. All right, listen. At this point, you should have come up with your categories. If you haven't, that's okay. I'm just going to give, because most people are done, so I'm going to give you the next instruction, okay? So your next step on your packet is I want you to complete step number 7. So what you need to think of is brainstorming, real quick, brainstorming what you could do as your historical context. Now, one important thing, and this is most common with Manifest Destiny, if you have that as its own category, you can't use it as historical context, which is fine because there's plenty of other options that you can use as well. Okay? So, finish your categories and then decide what your group is going to do for your historical context. So all the Band-Aids in there are made for like if your like abdomen is bleeding out.
Oh.
So while you guys write your historical context, I'll go grab you one, okay?
The document is saying that we're not really able to expand. So I don't know
Wait, this document's saying we can't expand?
Doesn't it? Because it says
Who's your
United
source?
States is woefully unready.
Who's your source?
Alfred there.
So what does that mean?
To expand.
What is he saying?
Liars.
So remember, Alfred Thayer Mahan, he writes this book and it convinces America to do what? Expand what? Something specifically hot territories. Go back and look at your imperialism homework. It specifically mentions that it causes America to expand a specific thing. Okay. All right. Now, here's what you are going to do next. We are going to be pretending you are writing just like an LEQ, because the reality is a DBQ is basically an LEQ, and you support it with documentation. So, just like, and make sure you stay off your cell phones, by the way. I do want to emphasize about this cell phone thing, because we had this problem in 2B today as well. I do this to help you learn how to write. And so I guess my expectation is, because I hear all the time people say, can you help me with my writing? Why would I help you write if you spend your time on your cell phones when I'm trying to help you write? Does that make sense? So let's stay off our cell phones, or else I could just say for the rest of the year, just go do a DBQ and good luck. And that's probably not going to work out very well. Okay? So your next step is to do your historical context. Now, remember with your historical context, which in theory you guys should be really good at because we've done a million of these. You take a term from before to cause the now. You define it, explain what it is, and then connect it to your essay. So here's my example. So my historical context. Before the year 1865, America was experiencing manifest destiny. Manifest destiny was the idea that Americans had a God-given right to expand westward. Throughout the first half of the 18th century, white settlers colonized the western territory of the United States. So that is my definition. Then I connect it by saying, however, as American settlers reached the barrier of the Pacific Ocean, they looked overseas to the rest of the world for new locations to settle, leading to imperialism. Okay? So now your job, and I would open up that shared Google Docs so that you're all able to work on it, see it, things like that. Now what you are going to do is write your historical context. So again, minimum of 2 sentences talking about the historical context, and then a third sentence connecting it to your thesis. Yeah?
Should we write it on the paper or on the doc?
You do not have to write it on your paper. You just have to write it in your Google Doc. The paper is for somebody who is not here who can be able to work through it. So go ahead and write me your historical context.
It's talking about
Manifest destiny.
talking about being careful.
No, we're not using manifest. We're not using manifest. We're not. No, we can't because it's one of our categories. Yeah, we're not opening with manifest. Yeah. And let you start. You started. You got a 3,000. Yeah. You got sorry. Okay, before the year 1865, one major cause I've got it. No, this is part of the concept. So something that's important. Let me do this because it's you type up here and then we'll do this. Could you mention manifestly without any you wanted to illustrate I love that. And like you're not thinking. How about one of the trays? I'm not gonna change it. You can change it. Okay. That's great. Did they say anything about that?
Here, you keep it ready.
Yeah, we don't have any. Well, but we'll still have it.
But actually, the topic
Alright, so you should almost be done with your historical context. Maybe give me a spare in case you start bleeding out. Okay. It's up in the top right hand corner.
Oh my god, I remember it right.
But only one of you should be impaired at. So if one of you already knows what it is. Okay, listen. Okay, so here is your next step. Now you need to add in what's the second part of your first paragraph. Your thesis. Is Marie the only one who knows that?
No,
Let's try this again. What's the second part of your first paragraph?
Thesis.
Thesis, thank you. I have a little more faith in the AP exam. You guys all spent defining that. So, okay, listen. So, now you need your thesis. Now, one important thing is remember how we talked about that and how the prof says the word relative? So, this thesis up here would be considered an exemplary thesis, like a level 5 thesis. So it says the relative importance of the different causes for the expanding role in the United States in descending order of importance. So for them, what they did is they're saying basically that the America's want of trade routes was number 1, 2, and 3. You could also say the most important was America's want of trade routes, whatever it could be. And then you see they go evidence 1, so category 1, 2, and 3. Although there were many different causes for the role, there were also many effects such as 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you chose to not say this word relative importance, this is a shortened version where it just says, although, and they use language of the question, and they go through the different pieces of evidence. That's up to you, how you want to individually do it. Okay? So go ahead and write, yes, JT.
Oh, are we supposed to enter our historical context in the paragraph?
You can, but we're submitting it all as one giant paragraph, so either way. Okay? So go ahead and write your thesis. Once the whole paragraph is done, put it in the paragraph.
Which one do you want to do for you
Oh, hey, one thing I forgot to mention. Remember that your thesis, your categories, you've already written. Look back on what you did on step 6. Those are all of your categories. Now, if you notice, most of you probably have more than 3 causes. You just continue to list the causes. So don't just stop at 3. List all your causes. And even if you only do one effect, that's fine too. Okay? So go ahead and get started.
Which we could also connect to.
So you're on the Use website. That's what I was trying to figure out. We're worried about worried about somebody like mental health wise?
Yeah, and I'm trying to. I'll focus on.
Well, why don't you go talk to the counselor?
No, I'm not sure what's going on, and I don't want to.
I think you should go to the counselor. I legitimately think 100% with something like this serious, because it's better, even if you're not sure, it's better to make sure that somebody else knows. I still think it's better to tell the adult and have them done than risk somebody stop seeing, let me know. Does anybody else need to go? If you want to go too, you should go. You don't have to, but if you want to go, you can go as well.
I think Marie knows more about what's going on with her than I do.
You sure? Okay. She knows it's okay.
So
make sure it's all in one paragraph. The rubric says that your thesis must be in the first paragraph, which means it has to be connected. Huh?
In your last paragraph, too.
Yeah, but I would never bank on that, and I never count it if it's in your last paragraph, because when you're on the AP exam and you run out of time, you're going to forget it. The only reason they do that is because some people will all of a sudden remember it and throw it in at the end, but it's always best practice to do it at the beginning. Please put it in the Pear Deck when you are done. Can you show the example of the sorry. Wait. Oh, there were so many. Just because there were all Okay. All right. I only have a few that have been entered, but I'm assuming everybody else.
Sorry, we're on our way. We're working.
That's okay. I'm just going to show you a getting there example, and then I'm going to show you an exemplar example. Okay? So, we're going to start with this one, and we'll see if you can figure out which one is the problem. Okay? So it says, prior to the U.S. starting to expand its world, the U.S. made a trade deal with Japan known as the Opening of Japan. I mean, technically you should probably put the treaty, but whatever. The Opening of Japan started when Commodore Matthew Perry was tasked with opening the ports of Japan. Although the expanding role of the U.S., what is the problem with this transition right here? Did they ever connect their historical context to their thesis? No. Hey. So, make sure that you are working to connect your historical context with your thesis. Okay. Now, if you notice on this example, though, so they did the Monroe Doctrine. So prior to the year 1865, the Monroe Doctrine was passed. The Monroe Doctrine stated that colonization was closed off to European powers. It established the U.S. as a leading power and authority. However, this is their connection. Past 1865, the U.S. took the ideas of the Monroe Doctrine and began to enforce its role as the world's policeman.
Yeah.
If you're quieter, it makes it a lot easier to help you. Okay? And then notice how they go into their thesis. Okay, so this would be considered an exemplary example. There was one not so good one, but it looks like it got deleted. Okay, so here's now what you need to do. Okay? If you will open up your individual one with your name on it, document that looks like this. Now, here's all that you need to do. You have already written your first paragraph in your group document. So what I would do is right now, I would copy the part of your group document, go over to your essay, highlight it, replace it. Then all you got to do is fix the formatting a little bit. Delete this. And you've now just written your first paragraph for your essay. So what I would do is I would copy that over so that you already have the first 2 points of your essay done. So go ahead and take a minute and do that. All right. Okay. Coming back together. All right, so at this point, you have just achieved 2 of your 7 points. If it helps, the average on the DBQ is a 2. So you are currently average. Congratulations. Well, technically, the thesis point, you can't get the thesis unless you support it with your argument. So, but the average is a 2 on the DBQ. Are you Snapchatting that? So that everybody knows you got a 2 on the DBQ? Okay. So, here's what you next need to do. Your group needs to pick, it's kind of conjoined at the same time. You're going to pick one document that you feel like your group knows inside and out, you know everything about it, you could explain everything about it, your best document. Okay? Go ahead and pick what document your group wants to focus on. All right. Okay. Once you should have at this point picked your document. Now, if you look back to your category selection, one of these categories is associated with your document. So for my purposes, I'm going to do document 1, which is regarding the territorial acquisition of Alaska. All right? Now, I've decided in my mind that the most important cause of American imperialism is the gaining of new territories. Okay? So, back on my essay, I've created a giant outline for you. Okay? If I say that my top category of the most important is gaining new territories, I'm going to highlight this blank, and I'm going to write gaining new territories. And then where it says documents, I'm going to add whatever documents I put in that chart. Now, I could say that that's document 1, and maybe I also say, I don't know, document 7 has to do with it. Who knows? Okay? But you need to go ahead and put this into your sections. Now, if you say that this is actually the second most important, put it into the second most important. Okay? So take a second to type that in. Now, you need a document for this. So make sure, Thea, make sure that you guys are going to do a document associated with the Turner thesis, though. Because your category that we're doing right now, I need a document for it. Thank you.
So can we start with something else?
Well, you were supposed to pick one with a document. You were supposed to pick a document that was most. It's fine. You can do the second category too. All right. Okay, listen. Okay. So this is what you are going to do with this document. Now, in theory, you know that your document is associated with a term. So, for my document, I decided to do Alaska. Okay? So, just like an LEQ, that is all you're doing right now. You are pretending you are writing one paragraph of an LEQ essay. So remember, you need a topic sentence. So I put the most important cause of America's expanding power was gaining new territories. One opportunity for acquiring new territories was the trade deal with Russia over Alaska. Okay? Then, just like an LEQ, I define and then I explain. The only thing that is different than an LEQ is at the end of everything that you have written, you are going to write in parentheses doc or document and whatever document you are referring to. So basically, you're writing an LEQ paragraph and at the end doing doc 1 or doc 7 or whatever you could possibly be referring to. Okay? So with your group, write me an LEQ paragraph and then at the end put whatever document you are currently working on. Ready, you go.
Wait, so this is for the last document?
Well, you can do that as a category. It's just for this, you need a document because of what we're doing as the points. So later, yeah, you can do a whole paragraph about Turner thesis, but for class right now, so that I can explain how the documents work, you have to have a document.
So like in the evening when I'm writing, while we're doing DBQ, each category you need a document.
No, that's what I was saying earlier. But what I'm going to show you is there's an easier way to make it this entire category. Where are you going? Okay, make sure you sign out, and you better hurry fast because you're missing really important stuff. This. Your what? Yeah, that's fine.
So, like, you don't specifically state that manifest destiny, but this basically is that okay if we just like...
Well, manifest destiny can be a category. It's just some people will use it as historical context.
But we didn't... This basically is manifest destiny, but we didn't like say it's manifest destiny. We just said...
Well, that's up to you.
That's like a sense of patron.
Yeah, but you put manifest destiny right here. Are you talking about your historical context?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Your contextualization is the opening of Japan, not manifest destiny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just because you imply it doesn't mean it's talking about it, because you literally said in there the opening of Japan.
Yeah.
So that's what I would focus on as a reader.
Okay.
They only take a minute and a half to read your essay.
Okay.
So they're looking for the obvious things that you're saying to them. You should be writing an LEQ paragraph, just like an LEQ. Remember your topic sentence, define and explain. I'll explain that in a second, but for right now, just put one document. Well, yeah, but you should have chosen a document at this point that you're working on for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wait, Ray, how many people actually watch?
Depends on how many people are gone.
I guess that makes sense.
But we range typically between like 3 people and 15. But like some, like this, when people go to rewrite it, like the writing ones, they'll watch a lot more. And then once the AP exam gets closer, people will start to review it a lot more.
That makes sense.
Yeah, our top video has like 70 hits, I'm just saying, so.
Dang.
Yeah, except somebody who's not even my student wrote a sassy comment on it, and I was like, come on.
Really?
Yeah. And they weren't even, and I responded, I said, you're not even my student. And they were like, I know, I just found your video. Okay.
Do you get money from advertising for your channel?
I'm pretty sure you need more than 5 views per video to get advertised. I need at least 100 subscribers. But I probably wouldn't do it anyway. It might actually be illegal. I don't know.
You guys go Puerto Rico.
Take 3 more minutes. You should be able to do this in your sleep because you've done it 4 times before.
Can you explain what is in the document?
Not right now. You are only taking the term. So which document are you doing? Okay, so you're doing social Darwinism. So you're just doing social Darwinism just like an LEQ. For right now. For right now, all you do is talk about social Darwinism.
So now we got the design.
Once you're done, go ahead and put it into Pear Deck for me. Put it into Pear Deck. And I think she's the one with Pear Deck open, so you might have to open it up and copy it.
Why'd you do that? Why did you grab it?
I got 1 of 30 responses. Awesome. Would love some more.
30. I thought we were 1, 2.
It's because all the classes are doing the same session. So everybody else has already answered these questions, but it's making it into one giant document. So I have other classes too. They use the same what we call a session that logs all your responses.
Right.
Yeah.
1 of 30 from all of your.
So right now I have 1 submission submitted out of the students who could possibly submit it. I think you're overthinking it. So there's 1 of like 12 in this class.
Right.
Yeah, that's because it's what it says at the bottom. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's not a huge deal. Hey, really quick, what group is this? Look up on the board. What group is this? Okay, the reason I ask is because maybe you're just embarrassed right now. Somebody come and get me or like signal to me. I'll like look around the room and try to find you. I need to tell you something. Okay, thanks. All right, go ahead and keep working, submitting. Okay. So saying that the most important cause was the advice of experts, I think is a really poor argument. I think instead you could, if you're really going with like that kind of a thing, I think you could say like authors attempted to convince people, but I think a better one for this document is all you have to say is most important is the want for worldwide power through a bigger meaning. So that's what I would change it to, because if you say advice to experts, it's a really weak argument. Okay? So I would change it to something about Alfred Baker Mayhem.
I think instead of cause, we should put when.
Hey, real quick, some of you are kind of skipping past something. So, whoever's this one was, if you see they say as displayed by the political cartoon, do not put this in here right now. Okay? Delete this, and instead write it just like an LEQ. So, for example, you could say Spanish-owned territories. Following the Spanish-American War, America gained many new territories such as Puerto Rico, Cuba, and the Philippines. Delete this reference to the political cartoon. Alright, okay, coming together. Okay, so I want to show you, this would be considered a good example. Now, one thing is don't forget that you do need to reference the relative causes. So, the second most important cause, the most important cause, a third lesser cause, I don't know. So, one cause of America's expanding role was social Darwinism. Then they define it. So social Darwinism is the idea of this. And then they talk about what did it cause. Notice how they use the language of the question. This caused many whites to decide they should take over the earth so they could spread their superiority. It was justified. People thought it was an increase in migration. They could... Alright, just kidding. I don't know what you were trying to say with this last one, but they were not trying to start a race war. Okay? So, so you said this is what it says in the document. First off, the one thing that you have to see about this document is it's saying social Darwinism. The whole race war thing, all that is superiority. So don't put on there that it's trying to do a race war. Instead, you could talk about how you could go to war in order to help people who are of a lesser race. Okay? But a race war implies that you want to all of a sudden have, like, people who are white and people who are Filipino fight just because they're different races. That's not what it's implying. Okay. Other than that last one, that was good. Now, if you notice, okay, now on some people's, by the way, that I noticed, one thing I want to point out. So, like, this group right here did social Darwinism. Notice how they have 3 documents associated with that social Darwinism. And that should be your max. You shouldn't do more than 3. But if you see how they did docs 2, 4, and 6, that's how you reference all the documents. Okay? So, now what you need to do is you are going to copy it into your essay. So go ahead and take the time now. If you notice, A, B, C, and D we've already done. That's just helping you remember what to do. Copy it into your essay and reformat it. Copy it into your own individual document so that you have it for your essay.
Can we copy our historical content?
You should have already done that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so you take out the A, B, C, D thing, and if you notice, I can even delete this number 1 And then I just indent it, and there you go. There's my first paragraph.
Then we have the...
Okay. At this point, you should have copied this, whatever you did, into your essay. Now, listen for one more thing. Do you guys remember when we did that outside evidence thing a little bit earlier today? Now, if you notice, you will naturally start to do outside evidence in your essay. You will automatically do it without even realizing it. In fact, if I go back to the... I saw one on here. Let me see where it's at. Oops, I spelled world incorrectly. 1 second. Okay, so if you notice in this one... Oh, not that. Not my emails. Okay, if you notice with this, do you see how they talk about the world's policemen? Now, if they had expanded this, that would work fine. But you do have to, at some point in your essay, have at least one piece of outside information. So in mine, I talked about Seward's Folly and how basically this was used to show how America should not have bought in Alaska. Up at the top, you need to highlight for me in your essay the following things. The first is called IDing the document. That's exactly what you guys just did. You identified this is a term in the document. So, where it says Doc 1, make sure you highlight it with the color, which is yellow up at the top. You do this for all 7 of your documents. This helps you know that you did all the requirements for this essay. So, if you haven't already highlighted the doc, go ahead and highlight it and make it yellow.
Would you need all of the documents to be included?
Yep, every single document has to be included in your essay. Okay? Now, the other thing is outside evidence. You need at least one piece of outside evidence. Once you have achieved this, wherever it's at your essay, you could have done it now. You might not have. All I have to do is highlight this and then change it to the color that's up above. And then now I've had these 2 labels. So those are 2 examples of things that I want you to label in your essay. This helps me read it faster, and it helps you know that you did it correctly. Now, the last thing we have to do is what is known as a HIP analysis. If you will flip into your packet, the DBQ worksheet packet, and go to the very last page. Go to the very last page. Okay. Now, if you will put... Okay, listen. If you will put in the first box on the left where it says document, whatever document you are working with right now. So whatever document you are working with right now, go ahead and put into that left-hand box at the top. Okay? Then, what you need to do is you can either work with your group or maybe you disagree with your group's favorite, but you're going to pick the 4 documents that you feel like you know the best. You can interpret these documents the best. You know where they came from. You know whatever is in this document. You understand it. And go ahead and write those numbers on the left-hand side. Go ahead and get started on that.
I feel like document 2 and document 3.
So, here's your problem, though. All of this is actually what we're about to do. So, you need to expand on your manifest destiny. Basically, you've already done what we're about to do. Did you copy it from here? You had already done it? Okay, that's fine. So this part right here that I'm highlighting on your guys' worksheet, that is what we are about to do. Okay? The problem is you didn't expand enough on this manifest destiny. So you say that God had ordained Americans to spread west. Consequently, Americans integrated this idea. Well, what does it have to do with expanding? So now you need to tell me and expand this sentence and tell me this expanding role ended up moving farther west once we hit the west coast, from return pieces, blah, blah, blah. So work right now on expanding this, because this right here is what you're about to do. You just jumped the gun a little bit. Okay. Now, working with the document that you just barely worked on, you are going to do what's called and listen very closely, a HIP analysis. Now, we've done these before. Remember, the H stands for historical context. Why was this document written? What happened before to cause the now? The I is intended audience. In my opinion, that is the hardest out of all of them to do. I would not suggest doing intended audience because it's very hard. But basically, if you were to do that, you would say, who is this document for? Problem is, a lot of people misinterpret the I, so I would just be wary of that. The P is purpose. Why was this document written? What's the goal of it? And the last P is the point of view. What is the point of view of this document? Now, when you go to write this, you want to use those terms, purpose, point of view, whatever it could possibly be. So, if you notice on this one, I did social Darwinism. Okay, so up here is what you guys just did. Define and explain. Then, I put the purpose of Josiah Strong's Our Country, and then I talk about what is the purpose, what did he say, why is this important. Or I could say the point of view of document 6 is to show the negative impact of social Darwinism. When the Philippines were designated as a territory, America attempted to assimilate the culture. This means they wanted to make Filipinos more American. However, the cartoon is showing how this is negative, as the Filipinos are only given one option, education, assimilation, or military force. Now, if you notice, there's two different ways you can do the document. You can either say the point of view of document 6, or you can put doc 6 at the end based on what you want. Okay? So what I want your group to do is to take your document that you just barely worked on and go ahead and write a HIP analysis. Should be about 3 sentences long. Ready? Go. See, in your guys's, you guys, instead of doing the LEQ portion of the define and explain, you guys just automatically jump to the HIP. And so now you need to go back and benefit that. Now I think you could also rewrite that HIP a little bit. So instead of saying like an example of this, you can do that, but then also say like the purpose of this document was to do this. Okay? Okay, what are you confused about?
I don't know. I'm not understanding the concept today.
Okay, so what document are you guys working on? 3. Document 3. So document 3 is Alfred Thayer Mahan's Influence of Sea Power.
Yeah.
So because of this document, what happened? Because this document was written, what was the consequence of this?
They started like trading more. Became cause of the Navy.
Caused the Navy. So Alfred Thayer Mahan is bigger Navy, okay? Not trade routes. So in theory, your guys' paragraph should have talked about the expansion of the Navy. Did it talk about that? No, you need to change it, okay? So now you have to decide if you want to do HIPP for this. Purpose, I think, is the easiest one.
Yeah.
You could say the purpose of document 3 was what? What was his goal in writing this?
To expand the Navy to have a stronger power.
Yeah, so if you expand the Navy, you become a stronger worldwide power. So basically that's what you explained. The purpose of document 3 was to convince America that in order to become a worldwide power, they needed to have a stronger Navy. He talks about how the great British powers have the biggest Navy, and therefore America should have the biggest Navy too if they want to be like a British power. And that's what you do.
Okay, so the part that I get this, so we only have to pick one.
Yes.
So we don't have to do, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we have to do 4 of those.
Total in the whole essay.
Okay, and
They're
then
only doing
for
one right
this, so we did these categories, right? But I have to find a way to use 1 and 6 because they aren't included in here.
Yeah, so you have to add another category because you haven't included 1 or 6, and you need to use all 7 documents in your essay.
Even if I add them to this or this, like, because I just thought that. I mean, I have to look at them again. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, somewhere in here you have to use all 7, so you can add a new category.
Okay,
whatever you want.
Cool, thank you.
You only have to do 1 of the letters. You only have to do 1 letter, not all 4. In AT, you don't have to write it on your paper if you don't want to. You can just type it. You don't have to copy it. The writing is for people who aren't here or need more assistance or something like that. All right. Okay, listen. Due to time. Okay. We will spend the first 15 minutes of last class finishing this up. Okay. Next class.
You said last.
Well, I meant next class. Okay. So, because we only have 3 minutes left in class. Okay? So, put your computers away, put them back, plug them in, and put my desk back. Keep this for next class period. Okay?
This way, when you say explain on the manifest destiny thing, I change this a little bit.
I think that it's a bit vague, especially this last sentence, because you say evidently, manifest destiny led to the expansion of American networking and trading in other unprecedented foreign countries. Instead, I would talk about how once America reached the West Coast, they still felt this need for manifest destiny and began to move into new territories and have new trading routes. Because right now it's very vague. It's very eloquently written though, but it's very vague.